Hello, this is a book review and along some interesting ideas that I found in this book. Thinking in bets, making smarter decision when you don't have all the facts. I'll start with the review. This book is probably between 2 to 3, more towards a 2, because it sounds very good by the name, Thinking in Bets. So there is not much about thinking in bets. There is just about random self-help ideas that has not directly related to thinking in bets. There are some. She has this lot of experience from poker playing, which is somewhat interesting, but she's diverting all the time towards different ideas that are related actually to self-help rather than the actual thinking in bets. She's talking about democracy, about random ideas. So probably 2.5, but I'll go with a 2 because this is not the best, I guess. Now let's start. Again, there are some interesting ideas. There isn't, but a lot of bullshit. Let's see. First one is, don't change the strategy when it doesn't work for a few hands in poker or other places. So sometimes when one strategy doesn't work, you change your strategy, but sometimes it's unrelated. So it's not good. If you have good strategy, don't change it when it doesn't work. Of course, there's the problem of how to know when it's failed or not, but we not go into that, but the idea is good. The difference between chess poker is that the novice can win a professional in poker, but not in chess. That's the main differences between poker and chess. Is in chess, you cannot win a professional player, while in poker, luck might play a role, or not might, luck plays a role. The differences between novice and a professional is with the certainty of winning hands. The professional knows the possibilities of winning much better. So in poker, the difference between novice to a professional is that the professional actually knows what is the probability of him winning, while the novice doesn't really know the actual possibilities of winning that hand. After getting 2 aces and losing 2 hands, why was I thinking I did something wrong? That's resulting or misunderstanding the probabilities. So sometimes someone has a good hand, let's say 2 aces, that's a very good start usually, and he still lost. He might say, oh, why was I thinking I did something wrong? So some people think I did something wrong, but what did I did? And that's resulting. This idea of resulting. In other words, is misunderstanding the probabilities of some things to happen. So let's say you have 90% of winning that hand, you still have 10% of losing, and sometimes we forget about that 10%. Even a good poker player loses an average 40% of hands. So I got stagnant about this number. This is a big number, and I didn't know that even if you're a good player, you might lose 40%. That shows how important luck is in poker. Plays a role. It's a very important role. Every decision we do is a bet. You not doing something is a bet because we closed a lot of doors. So every decision is a bet. Even if you say, no, I don't want to choose, that's a bet because you closed other doors. You said, no, I'm not going. I'm not doing it. I'm staying here. Evolutionary wise, false negative are less costly than false negative. In other words, it's better to be safe than sorry. So that's one of the things why false negative is problematic. So let's again. So evolutionary wise, false negative are less costly. than false negative. What happens in false negative? So false, let's call it then false negative. It's both false negative, huh? It's better to be, so we have false positive and false negative. False negative are not problematic, so I should fix this. But false negative is okay than false positive. So false positives, it means that the lion will eat you. You thought it's not a lion, but it's a lion. Better than you thought it's a lion, but it's not a lion, and then you're safe, rather than the other one. The white notion believes that boldness comes from the mother's side of the family is a common misconception. This is actually not correct. I don't know all the reasoning, but it's actually a misconception. I actually thought so too, which is interesting. Boldness is not coming from the mother's side of the family. It's a common misconception again. It's hard to like change the thinking about it, but that's the science. Motivated reasoning refers to the reaction we have when we encounter beliefs that are unlike ours. That's about motivated reasoning, about how we react when we hear things we do not want to hear. Studies show that smarter people tend to have a hard time with confronting their biases, as they are smarter with providing excuses. That's actually a very, very important one, as smarter people have better excuses, so they actually sometimes they fall more for biases or fallacies because they have good reasoning. They know how to find good excuses. I really like this one. When we about to bet an idea or belief, we are more likely to look at it in an unbiased way. Thinking about it in those terms without betting might yield the same result. So when we about to bet, let's say we're having an argument with someone and say, let's bet on this, you're more likely to think about it in an unbiased way because there is consequences. So if you think about it in those terms, take that idea to other realms, you're more likely to find the unbiased solution. When thinking about how confident we are in our beliefs, it's good to give a number between 1 to 10, which can be translated into percentages. So we're thinking about how confident. So we need to give numbers, not just I'm confident about it. If you give numbers, if you get like how am I confident about this idea, will give you a better idea about how much you're confident. So 1 to 10, it's the same as percentages. Outcome due to skill versus luck. What's the difference between them? Skill outcomes could be replicated, while luck outcomes are a matter of luck. I really like this distinction, put out really good. So skill can be replicated while luck is luck and cannot be replicated. It's a very good to put it. In poker, just in normal life, we tend to take credit for our successes and blame others or luck for failures. When it's our thing, we will take the credit, but if we fail, we will blame everything that is possible. I think there is a name for this bias, but every time I hear it, I think it's important to hear this over and over again. We are competitive animals. As such, when someone else is winning, that means we are losing. That's what we always in competition in some way. It's not necessarily a win, zero-sum game, but this is how we approach this. This is, if someone else is winning, we are losing. Even though in some cases this is not the case, but that's how we look at it. Easy to take bets against an extreme view. So if someone has an extreme view, that's a very good or an easy to win bet. When a colleague made a good sale, instead of trying to discount his success, try to think, what would you say if you would do the sale. So that's the same idea of taking credit for successes. If a colleague made a sale, instead of like, oh, it's just like he just had luck or whatever, you will say to discredit or discount him. It's better to think, what would you say to yourself if you would succeed, or if you did the sale? You say, oh, I'm so good today, or whatever. So say the same thing for your colleague. There is a phrase, two to disagree and one to referee. Just like this phrase, to disagree and one to referee, that's the best way to have discussions in some way. So you have two to disagree and one to referee to settle the argument. It's a good one. Thinking what a good friend or a professional will say about your actions might prevent you from failing to biases. So just by thinking about what a good friend or a professional will say about your situation or your actions might prevent you from failing to those biases, as you like, okay, man, what he wouldn't like it. So it's putting you in outer shoes in some way, and that actually might prevent you from doing wrong actions. The problem with peer-reviewed journals is that if the peers having the same ideas, they're more likely to support it. So she's not talking about it in the book, but this is one of the problems of psychology these days, that they're just, if your peers have the same mind of yours, they're more likely to support it even without giving it the right amount of refutations or trying to tackle your ideas. This is like, as you can see, this is one of examples. See, this is things that aren't related directly to thinking in bets. He's going to a whole different subject that not necessarily directly. So some of them are good. Again, some of them are good, but again, it's like it's all over the place. It's important to not kill the messenger. Sometimes the message is important, but we dismiss it because the messenger. So that's like a communication, normal communication tricks to not think about the messenger, or think about the message. The messenger does not matter. Think about what he's saying, not who's saying, what he's saying. First losing $1,000 and then winning versus first winning and then losing is not the same feeling, even though on the bottom line it's exactly the same. So you can see there is a little difference between first winning and then losing, or winning at the end. If you lose and then win, you feel great. If it's go the other way, you feel the worst, even though it's the same. Bottom line, it's the same, but it's not the same for us. That's a bias in some way. Scenario planning is thinking about possibilities of what's to come. Thinking about what's the probability of any situation to happen. That's a good tip. Scenario planning. So we have some scenarios. So you think about all the possibilities that might happen and give that the probability of those scenarios to happen. So that's a very good analysis of thinking forward about a scenario. What might happen, preferably with probabilities. That's a better way. So that's it for notes. So again, this book was good. Would not recommend too much. There is not a lot of valuable information there. I thought it will be more. So it's between the self-help to a little non-fiction ideas. But again, she diverted too much from the main idea, and that's why it's probably gonna get a 2. Adios.